Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this presentation, HR Innovators Leveraging AI. This program is part of the SHRM webinar series. You can learn about upcoming and on-demand events from our e-newsletters and the SHRM webinar homepage. SHRM thanks Rippling for sponsoring this program. Before we hear from today's speaker, we'll provide with some guidance on using a new SHRM webinar interface. In the center of the screen, you'll see the title slide for this program and our presenter who you'll hear from shortly. To the right of your screen, you'll be able to submit questions to the speaker or to our webinar tech support team if you're having any issues viewing the program. After this program, you'll receive an email with the SHRM recertification code. Viewing this full program qualifies for 1 PDC towards SHRM CP and SHRM SCP recertification. You can claim the program for the kinds of HR recertification credit, but you need to provide the details to your certifying body. We only have pre-approval for SHRM certification. Now about today's program. HR Innovators Leveraging AI. To lead our presentation, it's a pleasure to introduce Dr. Gleb Sierpinski, who is named the Office Whisperer by the New York Times for helping HR leaders overcome frustrations with AI. He presents regularly with SHRM and serves as the CEO of the Future of Work consultancy, Disaster Avoidance Experts. Dr. Gleb wrote 7 best-selling books, including most recently ChatGPT for Leaders and Content Creators, Unlocking the Potential of Generative AI. His cutting-edge thought leadership was featured in over 650 articles and 550 interviews in the Harvard Business Review, US Today, CBS News, Fox News, Time, Business Insider, Fortune, and the New York Times and elsewhere. His writing has been translated into Chinese, Spanish, Russian, Polish, Korean, French, Vietnamese, German, and other languages. His expertise comes with over 20 years of consulting, coaching, and speaking and training for Fortune 500 companies, from Aflac to Xerox. With introductions complete, I'm pleased to turn the microphone over to you, Dr. Gleb.
Thank you very much, Rashanda. Really appreciate your warm introduction. And welcome, everyone. Let's talk about how you as an HR innovator can help leverage AI. So from hype to ROI, making generative AI work in HR is the goal of today's presentation. Now, you heard about my book, the ChatGPT for Thought Leaders and Content Creators. I don't want you to think I'm trying to sell my book by this talk. I'm giving it away for free for all attendees, as well as other resources for HR professionals leveraging generative AI. What you want to do to get those is go to the link that you can see on the PowerPoint at the bottom of the PowerPoint. That's going to be tinyurl.com/DAEEVENT, tinyurl.com/DAE event. DAE is the acronym for my company, Disaster Avoidance Experts. So just that's why it's called DAE event. Again, tinyurl.com/DAEEVENT for a copy of my book and other resources on how HR innovators can leverage AI effectively. So again, not selling it, just giving it away to you. All right, folks, without further ado, let's talk about the goal of today's presentation, the overview. We'll talk about the AI imperative for HR professionals. We'll talk about some technologies and their applications in HR. Then we'll talk about how to proceed with establishing HR AI technology approaches with a governance first framework. So first establish your governance. How do you evaluate various vendors? I'm sure you've been approached by everyone and their grandmother for usage with AI. We'll talk about how to train people to use AI effectively, and then a concrete roadmap for you to roll out in your organization. And finally, a client case study of a client I worked with to help them adopt generative AI. I've worked with over 30 firms to help them adopt generative AI. I've seen a lot of things. I'll give an example of one client right now. You can ask me questions in the chat about specific topics that might be relevant for you. So put those into the chat throughout the conversation, and we'll get to them at the end. All right, so the AI imperative. Let's get to it. AI is very important for reshaping HR. If you want to keep your competitive advantage, you've heard about doing more with less. AI can really help you do that. It can help you be more efficient, but it can also help you be more effective. What's the difference between efficiency and effectiveness is efficiency is using less resources to get the same outcomes. Effectiveness is using the same resources to get better outcomes. AI can help you do both. It's kind of like magic if you know how to use it correctly, because there's definitely been lots and lots of uses of AI that people don't really know how to use it correctly, and then they're frustrated and upset when it doesn't work. So, for example, right now, I'm working with one insurance company where the claims agents are writing letters. And so we're developing a claims bot to help them write the letters more effectively and write them faster. And what they need to do is they need to take out the so they get a semi-generated letter template with insurance information about a claim, approval, denial, partial denial, whatever it is. Then they need to, previously in their process flow, they would go to a PDF and find the right claims language, the formal language that needs to be included in every letter. And then they need to copy paste it from a PDF to Word, which breaks all the formatting. And then they need to, first, they need to find the right language, which is difficult, especially for more junior people. And they hire many more people who are junior when there's a major storm event. Then they work, then once they find the language, and hopefully it's the right language, then they need to copy paste it correctly and format it correctly. Because when you copy paste from PDF to a Word document, as I'm sure you know, if you've done that, the formatting doesn't stay, and they need to painstakingly go and do all the indentation, do all the bolding, all the italics, all the highlighting, everything like that. And so I worked with them to develop a claims letter assistant bot, and it found the documents correctly, and it's able to extract the text. But AI is not made to extract formatting; it extracts text, and so they were frustrated and upset by this. So what I told them is that, hey, this is just the way that technology works. If you don't know how to use it, it's not magic. You need to know how to use it. So now we're working through specifically programming specific elements into the prompt. For example, if there's the first, like a number at the beginning of a bullet point is always boldened and in parentheses. So we're telling the AI always bold and put in parentheses if there's a number at the beginning of a bullet point. And then it does that because now it's given an instruction in the prompt to do that. But if you don't know that it's supposed to do that, and if you just expect it to magically do it, you'll be frustrated when it doesn't. So that's an example of knowing how to use it to not be frustrated. If you know how to use it effectively, and if you know all these tips and tricks, then you'll learn how generative AI can handle routine HR tasks much more effectively, enhance your work capabilities, help you manage your talent management processes, and you can embrace these technologies if you know how to use it correctly, if you know their failure points, if you know all these tips and tricks about how to use them effectively, and how to integrate them with RPAs, robotic process automations, so that AI can take, let's say, your well-being policy document, convert it into a different document, different format, take it, use it as a bot to give employees guidance on questions so that you don't have to respond to their questions all the time. So that's about understanding generative AI. Generative AI is great at creating content from learned patterns, text, images, data summaries, assists with communication reports. It can help you augment your creativity and efficiency. But again, you need to know how to use it correctly, what it can do, what it can't do, and how to use the background tips and tricks to address the problems that it can't fix by using specific prompts, natural language programming. This is not computer coding. This is something anyone can do and anyone can learn to do if you know how to do it correctly. Agentic tools are the next step in AI for HR. They can perform tasks with greater autonomy. So agentic tools, so what are agents? You've probably been hearing this phrase. McKinsey put out a somewhat overhyped report a couple of days ago about agents changing everything. It's overhyped. It's a couple of years too early. They will definitely change everything. Right now, they're not there yet because they are too fragile and they break and you need to maintain them. So agents are that's a large language model that is connected to a number of processes. So one that, let's say, an example of an agent for recruiting, it's able to scan LinkedIn resumes for promising candidates. It's able to send them an automated message inviting them to apply for the job. It's able to then evaluate their applications for your LinkedIn job and see if you want to if you want to extend them an invitation for an interview or for more substantive application process, whatever you do. Then it's able to, based on the interview, look at the interview transcript, evaluate what's going on in the interview transcript, give you a summary, and help you make a better decision about the candidate. So that's what an agent is, as an example of a recruiting agent. So it can perform a lot more tasks with greater autonomy, replacing a lot of activities. And that's just for recruitment. You can do it in any area. But there are lots of complexities in knowing how to maintain it. Because if LinkedIn changes something, that breaks the agent. And LinkedIn, of course, updates things. Or if there's like messaging, if you run out of messaging credits, it can break something. So you need to maintain the agent. It doesn't do things nearly as automatically as the McKinsey report suggests. So it can make decisions based on set parameters. You can tell it. So again, there's a large language model which works with a number of tools that search LinkedIn, tools that evaluate LinkedIn resumes, tools that message people on LinkedIn. And that's just an example. You can use a whole lot of examples from internal company data, like performance management and so on. So where, let's say, you have an agent that continually monitors people's performance over time based on certain KPIs that you can intake and give suggestions to the manager to evaluate, hey, what's going on with this person? That's another sort of agent activity. Lots and lots of areas where it's applicable to HR. And you need certain parameters, you need a certain level of confidence. It has to be confident enough that this person might be a good fit for you, or you should message this person, or that, hey, this person seems to be somehow off and there needs to be an intervention. So it needs to interact with your systems to complete HR workflows. And again, you need to be able to learn how to manage these agents, build them and manage them to do so. And can help streamline complex multi-step processes like I described. So rapid evolution is the new norm for HR technology. There are many, many fast changes in HR practices. So traditional HR methods like searching by LinkedIn by hand or trying to monitor people's performance, or not even monitoring people's performance because you don't have time for that because you're putting out fires elsewhere. Those are outdated. So you need to be able to leverage new AI tools and stay informed on them. So SHRM research, as an example, shows that there's low AI adoption beyond pilot stages. Only just over a quarter of HR leaders fully utilize AI tools. So maybe you're using AI to scan somebody's resume, but not do the initial evaluation and outreach on LinkedIn, right? And you don't have an automated process for scanning resumes. You need to put it in each separate resume at a time. Instead of having a PDF, instead of having a folder where all the resumes go, the AI automatically rates them and ranks them and chooses the best ones so you don't have to upload them one at a time. This hesitation is a serious competitive disadvantage. I've seen this in companies where I started working. I'm like, well, you could do this better, this better, this better. And so understanding the benefits of AI and the barriers to adoption is the first step to progress. Billions in lost value come from not fully utilizing AI tools. That's costs a lot on productivity. It harms employee engagement. It worsens retention rates. So, responsible ROI positive AI. Let's talk about the roadmap, talk about the framework. Embrace AI, of course, and its agentic enhancements, all of these other automations that are available with it. Then learn to assess AI vendor promises, which we'll talk about. Have a governance-first framework for safe AI adoption. Balance behavioral science with cutting-edge AI strategy, and acquire knowledge to lead in the age of AI in HR. So those are the steps that you want to think about. Those are the 5 steps that I always start my projects with when I help HR folks adopt AI, going through that roadmap and seeing where they are right now and where they want to go. So let's talk about HR technologies relevant to AI. One, uncovering non-obvious candidate pools. So algorithmic sourcing. I talked about that as an example already. Look for hidden gems beyond the typical talent pools. Look for non-obvious candidates with desired skills. Helps you improve inclusion and discovers high potential candidates who are going to be willing to accept perhaps lower offers because they are not typically identified and pursued by all the headhunters. Enhance efficiency in talent acquisition. So look at resume screening, initial matching processes. Rippling is one tool, plenty of others, but Rippling is a good one. Automates resume screening, initial matching, helps you streamline interview scheduling and communication, helps you reduce the time to hire, therefore. And that frees recruiters to focus on more strategic relationship building activities and maintaining these AI tools. The crucial thing is that you need to be able to learn these tools, maintain them. So focus on strategic relationship building and AI tool maintenance, which helps you a lot with what you want to actually get done, your actual priorities. Personalization and efficient onboarding. That's really helpful. Chatbots. One of the first things I do when I start an AI project with HR focus is work on creating a chatbot with information that all new hires should know. And that deflects like 70 to 80% of questions that new hires have to HR. That interrupts your day. You get an email, you need to respond to it. The same type of responses that you had previous new hires. They just prefer a chatbot. Overwhelmingly, they can ask a chatbot. They'll get the right information the vast majority of the time. And if they're not sure, they can confirm. And there should also be a link that they can actually read the underlying documentation. It's faster integration, it leads to quicker productivity, and that helps improve employee satisfaction and early engagement, as well as save you time. Transforming learning and development. So look at using AI. You can if you have good data on your current skills levels of your employees, you can do a skills gap analysis. Look at skills gap and suggest relevant training. It helps you curate content that's going to be personalized to people's needs, their current learning needs, their current levels. Material creation, it's great for creating materials. So large language models, learning agents are very good at creating materials, and helps you create a culture of continuous learning and growth for creating micro content, reminders, occasional, like you can send micro lessons once a week that are going to be customized and targeted to each employee that they can take like 15 minutes to do once a week. Like that's a great tool that a lot of companies get great benefit from. All right, what about career growth? LLM copilots are great at developing individual development plans, at creating individual development plans. They're quite fast and they're quite effective. So what it requires is having your employee work with it, learn about her or him, and help them develop a career path. They can suggest skills for future role readiness, which can then tie into the previous point on learning and development. It can help them develop tailored growth paths very quickly and help them own their own career progression so that you don't have to intervene and think about, well, career progression, can I retain this person? You can have career progression, they can feel good about it, and you can retain them in your context using effectively targeted and customized and trained AI. AI analytics are a great tool. So you can use AI analytics to do things like sentiment analysis, analyze employee feedback for sentiment, and identify key trends of drivers and engagement. So you'll see what correlates, what kind of interventions, what kind of activities correlate with engagement and disengagement. And then you can predict. So that's looking backward. Then you can predict. You can predict who among your employees might be showing signs that have in the past correlated with retention risk, and you have effective interventions to boost employee morale and likelihood of staying quite a bit earlier than the previous tendencies with like you being overwhelmed and not being able to do this because obviously you don't have that much time. Data-informed compensation and benefits. AI is great at benchmarking compensation against market data. So if you want to think about compensation, this is a really good tool. It can research market data and can help you benchmark compensation against it. So you can feel good and fair about the offers you make, promotion, like all that stuff that you want to think about. Design equitable pay structures across the whole org. Personalized benefits recommendations for individual staff members. That's another benefit. Ensure rewards are competitive and valued by employees. I've definitely had cases where when we did this sort of appropriate compensation and benefit strategy analysis, we found that some of the benefits that HR was paying for were just not worth the ROI for employees, and others were quite worth it. So they were able to stop paying for some benefits that the employees didn't really value, and they were able to shift more resources to those employees valued, which of course improves retention and employee well-being and employee morale. Good all around. Okay, so those are some of the benefits for HR of adopting AI, and some examples where I've seen, I talked through examples of where I've seen work with companies to help them adopt AI and how they got specific positive outcomes for HR out of doing so. Let's talk about governance. So once you decide, hey, lots of benefits, lots of cool stuff with HR and AI technologies, how do we approach actually adopting generative AI effectively? First, you want to think about governance first AI approach. Help with strong governance frameworks. People are scared about AI. Over 70% of people report feeling anxiety about AI for job loss, for disruptions to their routines and processes. So you want to make sure that you're approaching AI responsibly. This morning, I had a meeting with an industrial company, manufacturing company that I was working with on their generative AI policies. And that was a very important part of the conversation about formulating the policies, because we wanted not certainly a strong governance framework, but also one that the employees will accept and one that will reduce employee fears about AI. Ensure that it aligns with organizational values and ethics. That's definitely highly important. So whatever your current existing organizational values and ethics are, you need to slot the responsible AI policy governance framework into that. Build trust among employees and stakeholders. So think about all of your stakeholders. So the insurance company I was talking about, for example, it's a public-private insurance company. It's a FAIR plan. So there are like 38 across the US. FAIR plan means it's an insurer of last resort provided by the government. And so it's not only the stakeholders or not only the people who are insured, the customers, and not only the employees, but also government agencies that are involved with this public-private company. So that's another stakeholder. So you think about all your stakeholders. Other companies, insurance companies they work with, those are also stakeholders. Think about building trust with them. Now, that doesn't mean that your documentation has to be public, just to be clear. But you want to have documentation that if it ever leaks, although it shouldn't, that you should not be worried about it being out there, and that people should say, well, this seems like a reasonable policy, and I don't see any problems with it, and it seems like it's set up to provide appropriate guidance and reduce risks and be responsible, basically. And mitigate risks. So you want to make sure, and we'll talk about this in vendor selection, to mitigate the risks associated with powerful AI tools, both misuse and appropriate use that results in bad outcomes, which definitely happens. Policy guardrails. Develop clear guidelines for AI in HR processes. That's going to be really important. Having clear guidelines. We're talking about specifically HR. Of course, it needs to be you need to have a whole policy applicable to the whole organization. And then each department needs to customize its policies to the broader policy of the organization. So just to be clear, that's kind of how it works. Define acceptable uses and limitations of AI tools. Well, this should be, again, across the company as well as in HR. Establish robust protocols for data privacy and security. you need to think about things like AI having access to your internal data, and how much are you going to publicly expose that access. Let's say you have a chatbot on your website, AI-powered chatbot. There are ways of securing it, but you need to really be thinking about what ways can it be hacked and what ways can you have some negative outcomes. I'm sure you've seen some stuff in the news about negative outcomes. So there are ways of preventing it from having negative outcomes. For example, retrieval augmented generation is a tool that means that it only answers questions based on documents you give it. It doesn't do things like, let's say, there was something, I remember there was something about an airline that had a certain policy, that had a certain chatbot, and that the AI invented some language that was not actually existing in the policy. Well, that's because the airline did not switch on what's called retrieval augmented generation. The airline gave the agent some documents, but then it didn't say use only the information from these documents to answer questions. It said, and there's a function in the backend of any chatbot which allows the chatbot to use its pre-existing knowledge as well as documents that you give it to provide answers. That's a setting that in certain cases can be fine, like for internal use. That's appropriate if that's something you want to do. But for external use, I strongly discourage it, because you can get the AI making up stuff. That's hallucination. So the way to prevent hallucination is what's called retrieval augmented generation, which means telling it not to use its pre-existing knowledge base, only the documents you give it. So that's an example. So again, you need to know these tips and tricks. Otherwise, you get like, it's a pretty large airline. I'm not going to name the airline, but this is like it's a basic user error, basically, situation there. And then ensure clear communication and understanding of the policies. So whoever is going to be managing the policies, whoever is going to be implementing them, people need to know and understand. Then, ethical risk controls for trustworthy AI. So preventing bias is definitely very important. So that's, let's say, preventing bias in insurance company decisions. That's the insurance company I worked with. Very important in recruitment and so on, in evaluations, very important. Human oversight. Make sure that human oversight is there for any decisions that you're actually going to be making. So if you're going to be choosing the candidate, then make sure that there's a human who's choosing the candidate, and so on. Regular audits for fairness and impact, and ethical priority. Prioritize ethical considerations in deploying AI. Very important. So that should be all taken care of in your policies. Promoting fairness and transparency. So have AI systems that treat all individuals equitably. That doesn't mean equally, but means equitably. It means apply a fair, standardized decision-making process for everyone. You don't need to have equal outcomes, but you're going to need to have appropriate. You don't need to have appropriate the same outcomes, but you need to have the same inputs, basically, that the same process to evaluate what's going on with everyone. Make AI decision-making processes understandable and clear, thorough. Communicate openly about use of AI in HR to employees so that they know, hey, how's it being used? Don't need to talk about it to candidates until they're at the later stage, but to employees definitely. Have honest and open practices about using AI in HR. And of course, that goes across the company. Measuring AI success. So look at your effectiveness of AI against defined HR goals. Measure ROI and efficiency gains from AI initiatives. So again, ROI, return on investment, efficiency, how much time is being saved by using AI. Monitor its impact on employee experience and equity alike, and use metrics to improve AI applications. So that means that you're measuring what's going on with AI, but then you're also making interventions, so changing things based on how it's used. So let's say you're looking at creating micro courses using AI to send them to employees. You want to see what kind of feedback you're getting from employees about these micro courses, and then make sure to improve the micro course process creation based on this feedback. That applies to anything else. Aligning practices with compliance. This is definitely very important. So whenever I do AI policy for the whole organization, for a department, we have legal involved and compliance if they have compliance, like the insurance company has compliance as well as legal. Understand legal concerns regarding AI in employment decisions. Of course, you could probably have compliance within HR as a function, but legal is important. Ensure AI tools don't lead to discriminatory outcomes, kind of reinforcing that. I talked about that before, but this is going to be also quite relevant for compliance. Document validation processes thoroughly for compliance. It means you need to know how AI is making its decisions. I need to be able to track back, okay, here's how we set it up so that it's making decisions accurately and appropriately. And stay updated on evolving regulatory guidance for AI. I mean, the big, beautiful bill that the it's called that. I'm not getting into politics. So this big, beautiful bill, not saying whether it's good or bad, not getting into that, but it has a moratorium on AI policy development for by states for 10 years. And that I think is going to be a problem because of like AI policy right now is very chaotic. So if you don't have states, you might have cities developing their AI policy. Much better to allow states to develop their AI policy, but that will, of course, mean that should have regulatory guidance on how to do that. So see what's going on with the regulations, see what's also going on with like SHRM best practices and so on. And let's say the insurance company I'm working with, the insurance department of the state put out a bulletin for guidance on AI usage by insurance companies in the state. So it will still be guidance. So you need to make sure to track that and stay in compliance. All right, let's go on to evaluating vendors. How do you select vendors effectively? Cut through the hype. So there's lots and lots of solution claims. You want to adopt a critical mindset when evaluating them. Distinguish genuine capabilities from buzz and hype. Like I told you, this recent McKinsey report, quite a bit too much hype. Focus on solutions that solve specific HR challenges. Have a scorecard. Use a structured scorecard for objective evaluation. Assess them on predefined critical criteria and compare solutions systematically and fairly. Make informed decisions based on evidence, not claims. So a scorecard is a really useful tool. Talk about having a fair and appropriate process. So I'll be happy to talk about this in question and answer. Also, if you want to email me afterward, I'll be happy to talk about developing a scorecard. Bias mitigations. Evaluate how vendors address fairness, because you're then responsible for how they will be addressing it. And so you need to know how they are going to be addressing it. How do they address algorithmic bias, which means algorithms that are programmed in such a way that they don't have fair outcomes? Request data on fairness testing on outcomes. Don't accept claims of bias-free AI. I've seen vendors make those claims and then their AI turns out to be biased. Data quality. Look at the sources of data. Understand how data is validated and kept current, because data is the key for effective AI output. If you don't have garbage in, garbage out, you don't have good data, you get bad outcomes. You also want to know what's your evaluation, what's your employee population, and whether that's the kind of population that the AI is trained on that the vendor is going to be offering you. Then understand AI decisions. Ask about how AI models reach their conclusions or outputs. So think about that topic with vendors. Have understanding for what is causing AI to make certain decisions and recommendations, whether it's about employment, performance management, career progression, all of that. This is crucial for high-stakes decisions. Black box AI can be a serious danger if it's making seriously important decisions or recommendations, because you should have a human in the loop to make the final decision, but even if it's making recommendations, it can be an issue. Security assurance, protecting HR data with AI. Inquire about data encryption and access controls. Make sure that it aligns with your existing DLP, data loss prevention policies. Understand vendor incident responses. Look for certifications like ISO 27001. ensure their security meets your existing data loss prevention, I mentioned that before, standards. Not only data loss prevention, but data privacy and so on. Ensuring ongoing model performance is another issue. So the model might be well trained now, but as data changes, as things change, it might not be well adapted to a changing world. So understand how they're updating the model, how they're retraining it over time, how they're making it better over time, basically, or at least consistent, hopefully better. Inquire about deploying model changes, and remember that effective AI requires continuous learning and tuning over time. So AI will definitely change. It's getting better and better and better over time, no question about it. And you need to know how they are improving their AI models so that you're not surprised. What about the human element? Let's move on to that and future skills. Behavioral science is key here. So I'm a behavioral scientist, that's my background. Maybe remember that from the introduction. I know it was a while ago. So you want to understand how humans react to AI technologies and design AI interactions to be intuitive for users. So for example, for the insurance company claims letters, they need to make it super fast. So I put in the bot into Teams and I made it so that they don't have to type in information, but they click buttons. So it says, they click on the chat bot and it says, what kind of a claims letter do you want to write? Wind loss, water loss, fungi loss, mold, all of that. And there's 12 templates of letters. And so once they click on the button, then it takes them to the relevant topic. It's like it says, okay, please copy paste the nature of the incident. They copy paste the nature of the incident and gives them some information of like the relevant language. And then ask them, do you want to try again or is this good enough? If they want to try again, it tells them to prompt it with a little bit of a different description because perhaps the description they put in the first time was incomplete or too long or too short or whatever it is. Because especially for junior people, they still need to learn how to use this tool. And then they try again. And hopefully this time it works. If not, it goes back to the beginning of the conversation. They get to click a button again. And if it works, then they get to get a layman's summary of the prompt, which they need for the letter. And then they can copy paste the whole letter and get it checked for any issues. So that's the nature of making it intuitive for users, making it easy. It's like people don't like typing. They might prefer to click buttons. And so that's something you can do. And use these insights to encourage positive adoption behaviors. Focus on user experience, basically, to maximize benefits. Mitigating human bias in the age of AI. Recognize automation bias, over-reliance on AI. There's a danger in when people, just using that same example, are copy-pasting the information from the claims form that they don't check the claims form. Because again, it doesn't carry over formatting perfectly accurately. We're working on tweaking it through giving it specific instructions, but sometimes it still fails. So there's this disclaimer that very clearly says, you need to check this, don't forget to check it. It's very important. And there's a link to the underlying PDF that they should go to. And so you need to give people reminders about this stuff because people forget, and that's in their workflow. It's too easy for them to just click and copy paste and move on. Promote critical thinking alongside AI tool usage, like I said. Train users to question the validity of AI output. Okay, leading change. Clearly communicate the why behind AI adoption. So here with the claims letter, that's pretty easy, but you want to think about starting with things that really help people, basically, that make it easier for them. Involve employees early in the implementation process. You're going to build a chatbot. You want to involve from the early onward the users of the chatbot to get some testing and improvement early onward. Provide training and ongoing support. No question about this. This is really important to provide people with training. Address concerns transparently to build trust. Whatever concerns there are, you need to make sure to address them and be open about how you're addressing them. Articulate AI benefits. Tailor value proposition to different audiences, whoever is going to be using it. Highlight efficiency gains and strategic advantages to the company and to the employees. Showcase how employee experience is better. Use data to demonstrate the positive impact of AI on people. Upskilling HR professionals. Equip teams with fundamental knowledge. Train them on data interpretation and critical analysis. So you need to, again, have the right data to use AI effectively. Build confidence in leveraging AI tools and foster understanding of ethics in AI usage. Prepare the entire workforce for collaborating with AI. So identify the skills that are needed to work side alongside your AI system. Implement upskilling and reskilling initiatives as needed for AI usage. Promote a mindset of continuous learning adaptability among your entire workforce. Again, this is HR helping the whole workforce. Perhaps for those courses, the mini courses that I talked about, we often do those in AI. Ensure employees see AI as an augmentation tool, not a replacement. What about the roadmap? How do you adapt it effectively? Let's talk about it. So, successful AI requires a strategic plan that focuses on measurable business value. Think about how you'll move from pilots to enterprise solutions and continuously track ROI to justify investments. To do so, the first phase, of course, is pilots. Pinpoint HR points with strong AI use cases, which I went over a bunch of them. Select low-risk projects with success metrics. For example, for the claims template letter, I used the speed, how much faster they're being written. For the chatbot with HR for new hires, it's the deflected questions so that they are not taking up as much time for HR professionals. Aim for quick wins to build momentum and learning. Document lessons learned for future scaling. Then, assemble your internal AI champions. Form teams with HR, IT, data science if you have them, but IT definitely, and legal representatives, of course. Foster collaboration and share project ownership. Develop in-house expertise and capabilities. So what I do when I work with a company is I focus on teaching them the skills. I focus on helping them learn. So for example, with a chatbot, we use Microsoft tools. I helped the team members who are working on the chatbot to learn how to use the backend of Copilot Studio and build the chatbots so that I build the first one with them. Then the second one they build with my guidance. And the third one they build with themselves, with me kind of tweaking it and improving it. And then the rest of the time, they don't need me. They can just call me in for more complex implementation. Ensure collaboration with diverse participants who are going to be involved in guiding development. Enterprise-wide talent intelligence is plan-free. It is phase-free. Expand successful pilots across the whole organization, integrate them into core HR systems and workflows. Of course, that's very important. So you need to think about pilots that will integrate, of course. Develop a comprehensive talent intelligence function and use AI insights for strategic workforce plan. Key performance indicators will help you track progress like efficiency gains, recruitment time saved, cost reduction achieved. Effectiveness will be things like recent higher retention rates. I told you about the difference between efficiency and effectiveness. Employee experience, that's another effectiveness. Engagement satisfaction scores, and compliance, adherence to ethical and legal standards. All right, let's talk about a client case study. So the regional insurance company that I mentioned. The challenge for their HR team. So I was talking about the claims letter, but here I'm going to go to the HR team. Claims letter is in my mind because I was just literally working on this morning. Slow hiring. So they faced slow hiring cycles that impacted business growth, high attrition, first year especially. Modernization needed. They needed to modernize talent acquisition and retention. And of course, they wanted ROI-focused adoption strategy that came directly from the top. What they did is we developed a roadmap. We partnered to develop a comprehensive AI adoption roadmap. Then we looked at their tool selection for recruitment and learning and development. Those were the focus for HR. And again, I worked with other departments, but HR, including HR, and that's what I'm talking about here. So I worked with claims, I worked with accounting. Team facilitation. We facilitated cross-functional team collaboration within HR and the outcome focus on measurable outcomes along with risk mitigation. Phase 1. We pilot AI for automatic resume screening in key roles using Rippling. We tested AI-driven personalized onboarding modules for new hires. Quite helpful for that. We talked about that, how to do that. Focused on reducing time to screen candidates and measured early impact on new hire engagement. That was our ROI. Then we built an AI task force. So we formed the initial pilot. As we were doing that, we were formulating the task force and launched it as we were launching the pilot. Dedicated team with HR, IT, and operations representatives. Champions drove AI awareness, best practice sharing. And by the way, the task force also included the CEO and COO, they did not attend every meeting, but they attended some crucial meetings. Champions drove AI awareness and best practice. They developed internal AI skills for targeted training, so I gave them training on AI. We ensured legal and ethical compliance from the start, so we got legal involved, again, not every meeting, but most meetings. Then scaling AI for talent and intelligence. Rolled out AI sourcing across all recruitment and integrated AI for personalized first-year development. We used AI analytics to predict and mitigate attrition, and we established a talent intelligence dashboard for leaders so they can manage their teams more effectively. The results was faster hiring and better retention. Over 30% reduction in average time to hire in 1 year, increased new hire retention in the first year by 22%, and over 15% improved candidate experience scores, which are great. I mean, who wouldn't want that, right? So, key learnings. Strong leadership buy-in was critical. So we wanted from the start to have strong leadership buy-in. That's very important. We focused on specific pain points that delivered quick wins. Cross-functional teams helped accelerate implementation, and continuous monitoring and iteration drove improvements over time. Like I talked about this claims agent business, since I'm thinking about that right now. Okay, so core takeaways. AI is a very powerful tool for reshaping all HR functions as long as you don't overhype it and use it effectively with human oversight and the HR folks who are involved in it actually knowing how the backend works and able to manage it. Governance is key for responsible AI, so make sure to have a good governance framework. Critically assess vendor claims and empower people for skills and change management initiatives so that they can feel confident about managing AI. Adopt a strategic ROI-focused implementation plan so that there's support from the top. HR leaders are pivotal in guiding AI adoption, and you can ensure AI is used ethically and effectively. All right, everyone. So, once again, additional resources. tinyurl.com/DAE event. There's going to be a link to my slides. I'll be happy to provide free coaching for anyone who wants to integrate these strategies into your work. A free coaching meeting, half an hour, happy to help you do so. And like I said, I'm not selling my book. I'm giving it away for anyone. So ChatGPT for thought leaders and content creators, that's going to be you. You will be working on being the leader in your company and creating content. So make sure to get the book, free coaching, and a link to my slides. That's going to be at tinyurl.com/DAEEVENT. That's going to be on the slides right there. And again, tinyurl.com/DAE event for all those resources. Finally, tinyurl.com/DAEEVENT. All right, I'll be happy to take any questions at this stage.
We have a few questions that have come in. One of the questions that an audience member wrote, can you recommend which platforms are best for resume review and ranking?
So I'd strongly recommend Rippling. That's a great platform, but I'm happy to chat that through. So again, send me, put your information into tinyurl.com/DAE event, and I can recommend some others that are going to be more customized to your needs, like ServiceNow and so on.
Has anyone used AI for policy updates to ensure compliance with federal, state, and local laws?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's something I worked extensively with. So let's say the insurance firm I worked with, we definitely use AI for that. As laws change, there's a way to create an agent that tracks that. That's one. Another interesting use, so I'm working with an association for medical professionals, a regional medical association for a state, and they're using it in both dual purposes. We're using it to track legislation that's coming out of the state house that's relevant to doctors, and updating our own policies inside the association that are relevant to doctors, of course, because the association, doctors that don't keep track of what's going on at the state house level, the association does. And then the association communicates that to doctors and other medical professionals. But also, it's a two-way street, because what we can do, and we do, is we keep track of what kind of legislation is starting to come down the road. So let's say there's a committee discussion of certain legislation that's going on. And then we're able to see, oh, this legislation, it seems to be mentioning doctors. Let's take a closer look at that. And the AI is able to pull the committee transcript records, which are publicly available, is able to summarize that, and we're able to see, okay, here is what the AI suggestion. Here's what the legislators are suggesting. This doesn't seem very good for doctors. So our lobbying arm, the lobbying arm of the association with which I'm working, is able to intervene and redirect some of those policies that are not so good for doctors early on. And the earlier on they can be redirected, the better, to in a direction that's more favorable to doctors.
Another question that came in: how can human resources professionals use AI tools to support the development and building soft skills that are needed to effectively collaborate with each other?
So the key there that I find is using AI to assess people's soft skills as the first step. And AI is actually quite good at that. It's a conversational tool. You can have a chatbot that's trained to assess people's soft skills, give a number of scenarios, see how they'll react, interact with the chatbot by text, and you can even do by video, interacting with the chatbot. So they could see people's expressions and so on, because chatbots are now being trained for that. So multimodal chatbots. And you can see, okay, this person has certain levels of skills in this area, this area, this area, but maybe not in this area, this area, this area, or some are higher, some are lower. Then you can develop customized learning, training for people to develop those skill sets where they may not be very high. And so you can do both assessments and skill development through generative AI tools.
An audience member wrote, what would be good resources for additional data on algorithm bias in the hiring process?
So I talked about my book. So you check that out at tinyurl.com/DAE event. That's one. Second, I would recommend SHRM articles. So there are some SHRM articles in People and Strategy, which is a journal which I wrote, which other people wrote, that talks about these sorts of issues, AI relevant issues for HR. So check that out.
Going through a few of the questions. I believe this will be the final question. What is the base data information used for soft skills, general or company specific?
You can use anything. So that's the nice thing about AI. You can certainly customize it to be customized to your company. Depends on how clean your data is. And so let's say if you want to think about what's your company culture, you can describe your company culture to the AI and work with it to develop a soft skill based basis for what would be the appropriate soft skills for your company culture. So you can externalize the internal sensibility that you have about your company culture. And then you can train a chatbot to evaluate these sorts of skills in candidates and current employees, and you help make sure that current employees develop those and help make sure that candidates actually possess those before you hire them.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Gleb. And I note a few people who have mentioned they are not able to access the link. This will be included in the post-webinar email that will go out following this webinar. So you will receive access to the link to access the resources that Dr. Stropinski has supplied. But again, want to thank you, Dr. Gleb. Now, before we go to the official close of this program, I have a couple of announcements. Today's webinar is brought to you by Rippling. Rippling is the leading workforce management system, eliminating the friction from running a business by connecting people, processes, and systems. Rippling has every application that businesses need, from payroll to identity management and applicant tracking, giving every team the automation and insights it needs to accelerate business execution and run more efficiently. In short, Rippling frees smart people to work on hard problems. To learn how Rippling can help you free up you and your HR team, visit rippling.com. I also want to share the PDC that you've earned today for viewing today's program. That number is now displayed on your screen. You can claim your credit by using the program number 26-YKRE9. Regardless of the type of recertification you have, you must keep track of the SHRM webinars you have watched to keep a reliable record on your end. Now we have about a minute before the program window closes. In the post-webinar email, you'll receive a post-webinar survey as well as the SHRM recertification code. We hope that you'll take a few moments to fill out that survey. It'll help us assess this program and to plan for future events. Before we sign off, I'd like to thank our speaker, Dr. Gleb, for his insight today. And of course, I want to thank everyone for tuning in and for being with us and for choosing SHRM for HR webinars. This concludes today's program.